A citation of Professor Benedict Oramah, CON FCIB. Professor Benedict Oramah, CON FCIB, is the President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of African Export-Import Bank, FCIB. He was born in Ahwada, Nigeria, on July 24, 1961, and attended Merchants of Light School, Oba, in Anambra State, Nigeria, where he earned a distinction in the West African School Certificate Examination in 1978. He graduated with honors in agricultural economics from the University of Ibadan in 1983. He obtained a Master of Science degree in agricultural economics in 1987 and a PhD in the same discipline in 1991 from the Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, Ile-Ife. Professor Oramah was a United Company of Nigeria UACN scholar at the University of Ibadan and a postgraduate fellow at the Obafemi Awolowo University. He obtained an advanced management certificate from Columbia Business School, USA in 2015 and became a professor of international trade and finance at Adeleke University, Nigeria in 2018. In December 2019, he received an honorary Doctor of Science degree in agricultural economics from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Nigeria. In March 2022, he received an honorary doctorate degree in development economics at the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Before joining FCIB Bank in 1994, Professor Oramah worked at the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, NEXIM. Having risen through the ranks from chief analyst and special assistant to the first president of the bank to a senior director and executive vice president, he was appointed to the position of president and chairman of the board of directors of African Export-Import Bank, FCIB Bank, in 2015, a position he holds to date. As president of the Continental Exim Bank, he has demonstrated creativity, enterprise, and leadership. In less than a decade of stewardship, Professor Oramah has transformed FCIB Bank into a globally and continentally important institution. A recent Fitch Ratings report noted that FCIB Bank has become a principal driver of economic transformation and a vital instrument for implementing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AFCFTA. In less than 7 years, he grew FCIB Bank's assets and guarantees from about $5 billion in September 2015 to more than $30 billion in 2022, and grew annual revenues from $400 million in 2015 to about $1.5 billion in 2022. Creating a sizable Pan-African institution has rendered FCIB Bank pivotal to managing global shocks in Africa. For instance, in 2016-2017, when the commodity crisis broke, FCIB Bank disbursed over $10 billion into Africa and $2.2 billion into Nigeria. Between 2020 and 2022, the bank disbursed an aggregate of about $20 billion to contain the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the ensuing Ukraine crisis. The bank's investment of $2 billion into Africa's vaccination program enabled Nigeria and others to secure access to the COVID-19 vaccines, saving numerous lives and livelihoods. Buoyed by a belief in the strategic importance of an Africa-controlled financial system, Professor Oramah has led the creation of innovative instruments to support the development of a strong and interconnected continental financial system. Under his leadership, the bank worked with the African Union and the AFCFTA Secretariat to develop the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, to enable intra-African trade and payments in African currencies, paving the way for achieving annual savings of about $5 billion in payment charges by Africa. The bank is assisting African commercial banks to support intra-African trade and trade payments through its Afreximbank Trade Facilitation Program, also called AFTRAF. AFTRAF provides African commercial and merchant banks with trade credit confirmation lines, direct lines of credit, and other trade service offerings. About 330 of the target 500 regulated commercial banks are presently beneficiaries of this product. These initiatives are helping to realize the continental aspiration of a truly African-owned financial services industry. Professor Oramah is also leading the bank's efforts to promote intra-African trade through the creation of several novel programs. Under his leadership, Afreximbank has created a biennial intra-African trade fair, a premier marketplace for promoting cross-border trade and investments. In collaboration with the African Union and the AFC-FTA Secretariat, the bank, under the able leadership of Professor Oramah, has also created the AFC-FTA Adjustment Fund that will compensate countries for revenue losses that will occur due to the AFC-FTA associated tariff removals and help them adjust smoothly to the implementation of the AFC-FTA and the Afreximbank Africa Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme. He also created an impact fund and an insurance subsidiary called the Fund for Export Development in Africa, FEDA, and Afrexinsure, respectively. In Nigeria, the presence and impact of Afreximbank has been significant. Under his leadership, Afreximbank has contributed immensely to strengthening the Nigerian financial sector and supported the growth of the private sector. The bank, under his leadership, is currently developing a $300 million ultra-modern African Medical Center of Excellence, AMCE, in Abuja, which will help transform the country's health and medical services industry, improve healthcare delivery, as well as make Nigeria a regional hub for medical tourism. The bank is also developing an Afreximbank Africa Trade Center, AATC, in Abuja, which will, among others, house the bank's regional office, a modern conference and an exhibition facility, a tech incubation center, a hotel, and offices for international and Pan-African organizations. Further, the bank has completed the development of an Africa Quality Assurance Center in Ogun State. This facility is expected to significantly boost the testing and certification of Nigerian goods for exports and domestic consumption. As a prolific writer, Professor Oramah has several publications to his credit. He has authored books, contributed chapters to several books on economic development, trade, and trade finance, and written several journal articles. The most recent writings are the books on Foundations of Structured Trade Finance, a chapter on Export Credit Administration in Capital-Scarce Developing Countries, Handbook of Global Trade Policy, as well as policy papers on Training to Green Growth in Fossil Export-Dependent Economies, a Pathway for Africa in the Global Policy, Wiley, and Afreximbank in the Era of the AFC-FTA in the Journal of African Trade. Aside from being the chairman of the board of directors of Afreximbank, Professor Oramah serves on the board of several other organizations. He is the chairman of the board of directors of the Fund for Export Development in Africa, FEDA, the chairman of the management board of directors of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, the current chairman of the Executive Committee of the Arab-Africa Trade Bridges, AATB, the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the African Union COVID-19 Response Fund. He is also a member of the Intra-African Trade Fair, IATF Advisory Council, a member of the Practitioners Advisory Board of the Institute for Trade and Innovation, IFTI, at Offenburg University, Germany, and a member of the Emerging Markets Advisory Council of the Institute of International Finance, IIF-EMAC. For his contributions to international trade and investments, he received national honors from the governments of Cameroon and Russia in 2019. In 2022, he was decorated with several awards, including the Leadership Person of the Year Award 2022 by the Leadership magazine, Outstanding Visionary Financial Leader of the Year Award 2022 by GE7 Initiative, and the George Washington University Institute of African Studies African Energy Person of the Year in 2022 by the Africa Energy Chamber, African Banker of the Year Award 2017 and 2022, African Champion of the Year by the Africa CEO Forum 2022, African Bar Association Medal of Merit Leadership Award 2022, and the High Nigerian National Honor of Commander of the Order of the Niger, CON, by the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Professor Oke Oramah is a family man, happily married, with 3 daughters. Mr. President, Chairman of Council, distinguished guests, it is my singular honor and privilege to present to you this visionary and transformational leader, a consummate professional, an outstanding member of the global banking community, a man with the Midas touch, an astute manager of men and resources, highly distinguished and an accomplished role model, Professor Benedict Okechukwu Oramah, CON FCIB, to deliver the 2023 Annual Lecture of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria.